French President Emmanuel Macron was on a 5-day tour of Africa in Mauritius, South Africa, Gabon and Angola. These 4 destinations reflect a reorientation of French diplomacy after the withdrawal of French forces from the Sahel. The French president's trip aimed to revitalize France's relationship with Africa, according to the Élysée Palace, and confirm a break from France's colonial legacy, something Macron had spoken about early in his first term.
French President Emmanuel Macron kicked off a 5-day tour of Africa, beginning in Mauritius. His first visit to the island nation since François Mitterrand's trip in 1993. Macron's mission is clear: to rebuild and renew France's partnerships with African nations at a time when its traditional influence on the continent is waning. In Mauritius, a small but wealthy island economy in the Indian Ocean, Macron deepened ties with a longtime Francophone partner. Talks focused on cooperation in areas like energy transition, maritime security, and regional challenges tied to nearby territories such as Madagascar. Mauritius, once a sugarcane colony, has transformed into a dynamic financial and tourist hub. French companies have long been involved there, and Macron hopes to leverage that history into a more modern reciprocal partnership, aimed at benefiting both Mauritius and France. While in Mauritius, Macron stated that France has taken note of the will of the new Malagasy authorities to organize elections within a reasonable time frame following the October coup, and is ready to support the transition with an open spirit.
We have taken note of the willingness of the new Malagasy authorities to respond to the aspirations of the youth who have expressed themselves with strength and dignity and whom we must support, as well as the willingness expressed by the new authorities to set a limited time frame for the transition, allowing for the organization of elections within a reasonable period. France will support this transition with an attitude of openness, supporting the priorities of the Malagasy people, particularly regarding economic development, youth, energy, the fight against corruption, and illicit enrichment.
The aim is to turn the page on French setbacks in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger after the military juntas in these countries severed defense agreements with Paris and forced the withdrawal of French troops in 2022 and 2023. The withdrawals confirmed the decline of former colonial power France in Africa against a backdrop of rising anti-French sentiment and increased competition on the continent from Russia and China. The French president's trip aims to revitalize France's relationship with Africa, according to the Élysée Palace, and confirm a break from France's colonial legacy, something Macron had spoken about early in his first term.
This struggle opposes humanism to confinement, hope to oppression, the strength of forgiveness to the yoke of hatred, a struggle fought by the thinkers of the Enlightenment, by Toussaint Louverture and all his heirs, a struggle fought by Misak Manouchian and Josephine Baker for liberty, equality, and fraternity. This is also France's universal legacy. This struggle is not over. These names rise from history to call us to action.
However, 8 years later, the situation is grim. Macron has taken 40 trips, made visits to 26 African countries, and attempted to make amends for France's colonial past in Algeria, Senegal, and Rwanda, but to little avail. The former gendarme of Africa has been driven out of the Sahel from Mali to Chad. Accused of interfering in African countries' affairs, France is facing profound popular disaffection. Finding itself on the back foot, French diplomacy has shifted its focus to English and Portuguese-speaking African countries, countries with no colonial history with Paris and whose dynamic domestic markets offer significant opportunities for French companies. Another flagship project is the French Development Agency's involvement in the renovation of the Trans-Gabon Railway, which is crucial for the economy and passenger transport. It crosses 5 of the country's 9 provinces, but is in need of significant investment.
I fully support what the President of the Republic has just said. that Africa can no longer be a continent of mere resource extraction. We must succeed in building new models which require energy investments and practical transformations, but which allow us to develop and process these resources in a more productive way. And so we are supporting this win-win partnership, respecting everyone's interests while working along a critical path that must also be coherent and competitive.
The Élysée Palace points out that each stop on this African tour has a strong economic component. Beyond economic opportunities, France is also seeking to strengthen security cooperation. Africa Bureau, WION World is One.